All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're talking college football and we're recapping week number 4. What an outrageous, fantastic weekend it was in all of college football. But the man who knows they can't get too outrageous in Manhattan, Kansas because he's such a big time celebrity there. My co-host Fresh. Fresh, how you doing?
I love the little apple. Haps, I'm doing great. This, 2 weeks ago was like a, survival Saturday. This past week, statement Saturday. Whether it was the Buckeyes going into South Bend and surviving a battle, a great battle, or, Alabama telling us that they're still not dead and they're still alive, or Oregon basically telling everyone that they're a program to be reckoned with, and letting Colorado know that you've done well. You've been better than last year, but you still have a long way to go to be a true contender in the Pac-12 and in the nation. But all in all, an exciting, action-packed weekend of games.
All right, there, Fresh. So let's jump right into it. Game of the week for you. Where was the best game?
Game of the week for me was down the bayou between Arkansas and LSU. LSU started off LSU started off a little slow. Arkansas came out, played with a lot of fire, a lot of intensity. Game went back and forth, and then 6 straight possessions, I believe, for LSU to finish it out. But Arkansas just never let them get away. Always kept responding and kept scoring. They just couldn't get that final, push. They ended up setting with some field goals instead of touchdowns in the red zone. But it made for a heck of a battle and shows that LSU had resiliency. But there's still some kinks in the armor for the Tigers. They have to clean up if they want to really contend for a national championship later on down the season.
Yeah, Fresh. The game of the week, I was between two of them. I was really between what was going on out there all the way in Washington State. But, I can't ignore what happened Saturday night in South Bend, Indiana, where at one point I had the Buckeyes dead and buried. And at the very, very last moment, snatching a win out of the jaws of defeat right there, chip train them with 1 second left, barreling across that goal line. Oh, I don't know if I've ever been happier for a regular season game than that moment there. So amazing win by Ohio State.
How crazy was it that the third down play with the sack by Bertrand, you kind of thought, this is not good. And then McCord looked fantastic on 4th down, no issues in the pocket, made a great throw. And then the next one, a dropped interception, which would have sealed the game for Notre Dame, somehow get to the 1-yard line. And then when it comes down to the betting end of it, if there's no time left, they don't cover, but the 1 second allows them to kick the extra point, and they end up covering the spread. It's just right. The last minute of that ball game was amazing.
Right, absolutely. And the other thing, too, is if you go back even a little bit further, what happens if Travion Henderson doesn't get tripped up by the turf monster and falls in? He walks in for a touchdown, but then gives Notre Dame about a little over a minute to score, have a chance to either tie the game or win it there. Amazing game, though. That's what happens when you have two heavyweights clash like that early in the season.
Yeah, Notre Dame, this is not the same Notre Dame team we've seen in the past. They were truly there to compete, too, and I think that's a sign of both programs heading in the right direction.
All right, Fresh. Who is your players of the week this week? Who you got on the offense and who you got on the defensive side?
They're both going to come from the Bluegrass State, actually. Jake Plummer for Louisville, he torched BC. 18 for 21, 388, 5 touchdown passes, and a rushing touchdown. Cardinal they eviscerated BC. After that, Eagles have put up a pretty valiant effort the week before versus Florida State, but the Cardinals, they're coming, and that offense is humming. On the other end, looking at the Kentucky Wildcats, Maxwell Hairston, 2 pick sixes, 4 tackles, and 3 passes defense for the Wildcats as they took down the Commodores. They're undefeated, and they have, They get Florida this week. If they could somehow take out the Gators, they're setting up for an undefeated matchup versus the Dogs in a couple weeks. So a lot of hanging in the balance there in Lexington for the Wildcats and Coach Stoops.
Yeah, my defensive player of the week came from that Utah-UCLA game. Jonah Ellis, man, putting on an absolute show in that game. Kid has 10 tackles. 5 of those tackles are for a loss. 3.5 sacks. Absolutely Utah and Kyle Whittingham just completely stifling the UCLA offense. Huge win for the Utes there. They have 2 marquee wins right now. When we're going to need to start putting some respect on Utah's name here because they've now beaten Florida and UCLA. Granted, both those games at their own hometown where they haven't lost a game in over 2 years. But my defensive player was Jonah Ellis right there. Absolutely remarkable game from the kid out of Moscow, Idaho. Love that as well. My offensive player of the week, I was between two kids. I'm going to go with, like I said, I was torn between my game of the week. So I'm going to go away from South Bend and I'm going to Pullman, Washington. Cameron Ward, 28 for 34, 400 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, averaged over almost 12 yards of completion there. And he also ran one in as well. Cameron Ward putting the Cougars, the 4-0 Washington Cougars, on the map. And again, going to be some fun times out there in the Pac-12.
I mean, they jumped all over the Beavers. Oregon State made a nice little comeback, but Cam Moore and the Cougars, they were getting after from the very start.
Who is your Heisman vote right now, Fresh?
I'm still sticking with Michael Penix Jr. He had just another ho hum, 19 for 25, 304 and 4 touchdowns. Just an average day at the office. Thrown for 1,600 yards and 16 touchdowns so far in the season, only 2 picks. It's obviously the competition is going to get ramped up now for the Huskies going forward, but he has been lights out, and it's kind of been boring because he's been so good.
Right. Michael Penix Jr. is still my Heisman Trophy vote as well. And again, interesting Pac-12 After Dark game coming up, man. Washington's traveling to Tucson, Arizona to face the Arizona Wildcats, who are a surprising 3-1 on the season.
That could be a sleeper trip where you're heading down there where, it's not going to be the big marquee matchup. You just got to find ways to stay the course, take care of your own business, and wait till the bigger matchups come.
Right, absolutely. I can't wait for that matchup there, Fresh, and I can't wait to see what else Washington's got up their sleeve, especially come forward. You take a look; they got Arizona this week, and then they get Oregon in 3 weeks coming to Washington. So that should be a great matchup, and we should really know where the Heisman's sitting at for them.
Game day should be there.
Absolutely. All right, Fresh, who had your dud of the week? Who played the worst out of everybody?
Well, I got 2 of them.
Me
One,
too.
the Minnesota Golden Gophers. I think we could take Golden off your name right now. You lost to Northwestern. The boat, there's a hole in the boat right now. There's no more oars, and there's a hole in the boat. The Big Ten West was already struggling. You had a chance to maybe keep yourself in the running. You basically handed it to Wisconsin by that clunker. That was a gimme win, and you handed it to them. It's going to be tough to rebound after that one with the rest of it coming up for you. So tough afternoon for the Golden Gophers. And then on the other side, Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, the train is off the tracks. Absolutely horrendous effort, horrendous coaching, horrendous playing. You came in there cocky. You thought you had them in Alabama, and you did absolutely nothing right. Jackson Dart throwing the ball to nobody down the field. You couldn't get Judkins going. The defense didn't play. I'm actually thinking that Pete Golding is actually a plant by Nick Saban. He's like, look, I'm going to fire you. I'm going to let you go to Ole Miss because they think they're going to be good. Stink it up. You can play great defense against everybody else, but when you come to town, stink it up. Give us all the calls ahead of time. We're going to torch you. We're going to put our mediocre offense on the field and make us look fantastic. Horrendous across the board for Ole Miss. How can anyone truly take you seriously anymore when it was a lackluster affair in every facet of the football game? And you made an offense that was already going through some issues and a defense that was still growing and trying to figure itself out for Alabama. You made them look like the Alabamas of the past, where they were just dominant physically, they owned the line of scrimmage, and they controlled the game from start to finish. You gave them life. I don't see them losing to Mississippi State this week, so now Alabama, that win streak can continue to move forward. They're going to continue to be a dominant in the SEC West and still be a player. You had a chance to really put a nail in the coffin, and you let them off the hook. And now I don't really believe your program is actually truly worthy of anything because of that letdown.
Yeah. So I have 2 duds of the week as well. My first one is the Kent State Golden Flashes. It's kind of hard to be uber critical of Kent State because of how much they lost in the transfer portal last year to this year. But really, 53-10 against Fresno State. I like Fresno State. Fresno State's a surprising 4-0 right now. But, I mean, they need to be better than this, where you gave up, you're looking at 50 points by the end of the third quarter here. And you need to be better than that. But my really big time, I hate this as a dud of the week, but this is hilarious to me, is the Iowa Hawkeyes. Fresh, I don't know what your favorite first down was, where it was the first, the second, the third, or the fourth, but they did have 4 first downs in this game. They had under 80 yards of total offense. They possessed the ball less than 15 minutes in this entire game. I think Brian Friends may be walking all the way back across the country. You know, they have the Big Ten commercial where they show the map. Like, and now they just have a little picture of Brian Friends and how far is he across back to Iowa on the little map. And you just see Brian Friends' head just walking across. Maybe you can stop at the different college towns and they can give him food and lodging for a week.
I mean, just think about it, the Big Ten West. Illinois has been average. Purdue, they have lost, I think, 16 straight to Wisconsin. Northwestern's terrible. Minnesota just lost to Northwestern. Nebraska is a disaster. How much pressure now is on Luke Fickell and the Badgers? Like, you can't mess it up. It's been gift wrapped. It's been gift wrapped for you. And if you don't win the West, why even play the Big Ten championship game? Because one of the big 3 in the East is going to come in there and just absolutely eviscerate, just absolutely destroy, annihilate whoever they face. And it actually would do them no favors. It actually might hurt them in the playoff because they might not win by enough. It's bad. It's really bad.
Right. And you even say this, you know, I know they're not going to win the East because they're going to have to get past them. But imagine if you moved Maryland to the West right now.
They would smoke them.
Yeah, everyone would be talking about that because Maryland's only allowed 49 points on the season.
And their offense has been humming.
And yeah, they're a good football program, but yeah, all that is completely stacked out in the East right now. All right, Fresh, let's go to our top 15, top 20 right now here. I'll defer to you. I know we're different on this.
We're a little different. I mean, I'm keeping my my top 5, actually my top 7, top 8 are probably the same. Georgia, Florida State, Michigan, Ohio State, Texas, Washington, USC, Penn State. Utah moved up to 9. Oregon moved up to 10. I only dropped Notre Dame to 11. I was so impressed with the way they actually played in that ball game. Being a big game and Notre Dame usually fades, they showed up to play. So I put them at 11. UNC up to 12. Oklahoma at 13. LSU at 14. And Alabama at 15. Some teams right there on the fringe outside the top 15. You got Duke, Miami, Kansas, Washington State, Tennessee. Kentucky made it brand new to my top 25, and then some teams on the outside of my top 25 that I'm kind of keeping an eye on. Tulane, Air Force, Fresno State, Missouri, Louisville, A&M, Wisconsin, and TCU.
Yeah, that I'm with you on that Fresno State team. I'm waiting for them to make into the top 25 here. I think that they're really coming into there. I'm starting to approach everything different because now we're 4 weeks into the season and I'm now a what have you done for me lately type of person. I'm looking at what wins do you have? Do you have big time wins? And that's the reason why people are either moving up or dropping here for me. Texas still owns the best win especially after the Ole Miss game there. It still shows how impressive to me. While everyone wants to criticize Alabama, it's still winning in Tuscaloosa, which a lot of people have a hard time doing. And they beat a really good Wyoming team. We got a lot of respect for that Wyoming program this year, and they really put the boots to Baylor this past week. So I got Texas at 1. Florida State's easily at number 2 for me because they have a win over LSU and Clemson now. Ohio State jumping up to number 3 for me because of the win at Notre Dame. They got their marquee win. Penn State is sitting at 4 for me. Completely dominating fashion over Iowa this year. Say what you want to say about Iowa, but that's an insane win right there. Georgia is in at number 5, really just because I understand that they've lost the game versus Oklahoma. If that game was on their schedule, Georgia would not be down at number 5. I need to see them playing somebody ranked. I really do. Washington comes in at 6, Michigan down to 7, USC at 8, Oregon 9, Utah moving up to number 10 for me. And there I was playing around with moving Utah even higher than this because they do have 2 what can be considered marquee wins, but they aren't, especially the one over UCLA wasn't like a dominating fashion type of win, so that kind of hurt them. UNC is at 11 for me. Washington State. I love the win they had this week. I'm moving them all the way up to number 12. The U is going to number 13. Alabama is sitting at 14 for me, and Notre Dame dropping to 15. Just on the outside looking in on my top 15, I got Duke at number 16. I almost put Duke into the top 15, just can't pull the trigger yet and do that one. I'm sitting there with Oklahoma at number 17. Can't wait to see them versus Texas here in 2 weeks. LSU at 18, Missouri at 19, Oregon State dropping to Missouri at 18, Oregon State at 19, and Ole Miss is sitting there at 20 for me. So fresh, yeah. I'm waiting for. I had Fresno State as well, and just on the other side, Florida and UCLA. I have UCLA there too still, and drop them out top 25. Yeah.
I have Maryland also like in the fringe, but I want to see what they
Right.
do when they play Penn State or Ohio State. If if they keep the game competitive and they're not getting slaughtered, then I know that team's truly quality and they're worth that.
Right.
They haven't really played anybody at this point, but they're definitely on the radar. They've shown vast improvement. And same thing for Syracuse. We've seen this before, undefeated, but they faded a little late last year. Will they be able to keep building off, especially with Clemson this week, and can they take them out?
Yeah. And you take a look in Maryland's got Ohio State in 2 weeks. They go Indiana, Maryland, or Indiana, Ohio State, Illinois, Northwestern, Penn State, their next little stretch of games there. It's going to tell us a lot about Maryland, but very easily Maryland could be 7-1 going into the Penn State game. And could they really put a test into Penn State or Ohio State? I'm with you on that one. I want to see Maryland against one of the big boys, and we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I'm at the point, Fresh, where I got to start resumes, and what you've done for me this year has been my big thing. I'm starting to move people around for the play. I need to see some of these teams really start, and again, you can only play the games that are on your schedule, and you can only win this. But for years, that's what my criticism was for Clemson. Clemson got all this love and played when the ACC was absolute trash and terrible. And I couldn't stand the fact that Clemson would always just feel like they could rest their starters after the second half. And yeah, I just hated that. So again, my rankings right now, but we'll see what happens coming forward.
I mean, we're only 4 games through a 12-game regular season schedule. There's 8 games to go, and every week's going to get tougher and tougher. And obviously, rankings are going to influence some things, but in the end, it doesn't really matter until the playoff rankings come out in the end of October, and then we'll really start knowing where the rubbers met the road and where the true pressure is to get wins and move on up.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, folks, make sure you hit that subscribe button before you head on out of here. Get the notification every single time we drop a new episode. Like, subscribe wherever you get your podcast from, and make sure you're checking out SpinnableSports.com. Again, that's SpinnableSports.com. Special thanks to our producer, Drew. Without him, none of this is possible. Guys, leave us that 5-star review wherever you get your podcast from, because you guys know Fresh Night, we're those 5-star prospects. But guys, it's going to be a heck of a season. We got week number 5 coming up. Some big games leading into the month of October where we'll know the difference, whether or not we got some contenders or pretenders going into the final stretch of the year.
Buckle up, engage with us online through the website and through Twitter. And with that, talk to you with our preview. Bye, y'all.